Hello, beautiful friends. Welcome back to my channel. I'm so happy you're here with me again today. If you're new to my channel, my name is Sarah. I'm a certified life and business coach, and I help heart-centered service providers, creatives, and spiritual practitioners build the lives and businesses of their dreams. I've been going live every talk about everything related to setting and reaching goals, intentions, resolutions, whatever you want to call it. It's January, it's the top of the year, and I can already feel it. It's January 10th. Do you already feel like your fire for all the change you were going to create at the top of this year is starting to dip? If so, I'm really glad you're here because we're going to stay this course all month, and I'm going to be sharing tips, techniques, reframes, new ways to think about ways to manage yourself and your expectations and your behaviors so that you can start to make the life that you're living look more like the life that you want. And today, what we're talking about is your habits. If you are struggling to reach your goals, if historically you struggle to reach your goals, if you have really big intentions for yourself and what you want to create for your life, for this year, for your business, but you're not reaching them, the question you want to ask yourself right now is, what's going on with my habits? Do my habits match my intentions? Are my habits that of the kind of person who has this thing I want? And I'm going to talk about habits with a little like extra sauce, sazon, because I have ADHD and many of my clients are neurosquiggly. And for those of us who are not neurotypical, habit formation can be a little bit extra tricky. This does not mean this video doesn't apply to you if you are neurotypical. It just means actually that the tips I'm going to give are going to be even easier for you because you do not have the same struggles with executive function that neurosquiggly types have. So, like, I was amazed when I found out that my neurotypical friends don't have to think about brushing their teeth anymore. It's just something that they do. Like, or that, I used to think that there was something wrong with me because even though I've been a person who moves my body for my career and I exercise and I lift weights and I do Pilates and I do yoga and I dance and I love moving my body, people would always say, if you just go to the gym every day, eventually it will become a habit and it will become so hardwired that you don't have to think about it anymore. I'm like, I'm 20 years in. When is that going to happen? When am I going to stop negotiating with myself about whether or not I really need to do it? Finding out that I had ADHD was such a relief because there are so many things that I do every day, but they've never in my entire life become something I no longer have to think about. That autopilot sensation that neurotypical people talk about, I ain't got that. So if you are also a neurosquiggly person or suggest that or think that you might be, today's talk about habits might be a little bit of a relief for you as well, just to hear that there's nothing wrong with us, but the tips and the techniques for building new habits for us, they can be a little bit different, and we have to manage ourselves a little bit more differently. A little bit differently. It doesn't mean that we are unable to form habits. It doesn't mean we're able to change our habits. And one way that we know that that's true is we have habits, except that usually they are habits that are a little bit unconscious. I don't know why I'm struggling with English today. They're a little bit unconscious and we don't particularly love them. So I first want to talk about how a habit is formed. In the book, The Power of Habit, Charles Duhigg says that a habit is actually a 3-stage process that goes cue, routine, reward. So that's called the habit loop. There's the cue for the behavior, there's the behavior, and then there's the reward for the behavior. And when I say that we all have habits, and especially for neurosquigglies, the ones that are really ingrained might be ones we don't necessarily like. A great example is doom scrolling or just scrolling on social media. So the cue for that would be your phone is in your hand, or you pick up your phone, or you open your phone to look for something. I'm there, right? That was the cue. The behavior is I go onto social media and I just start scrolling. And then like the next thing I know, it's dark outside and I haven't done anything all day. So that's the behavior. The endless scrolling is the behavior. The reward is dopamine. And that is what an ADHD brain craves more than anything in the world. We want that dopamine hit. A negative behavior can be one of mine that I changed using this was biting my nails. I bit my nails since I was a kid, and I did it all the time. And I didn't like it. I didn't like doing it. I didn't like how it looked. I didn't like the habit. I thought it was gross, but I like could not stop. And I always just assumed that biting my nails was the habit, that it putting my hand in my mouth was the cue. It actually turned out when I started examining it more closely, the real habit that I have is counting. I grew up playing piano, and so I kind of run scales on my fingertips. That's like a little stim that I do, and so I touch my fingertips. And the cue was I felt a hangnail. I felt a little place where my nail was scratchy or there's skin on the side of my nail was messed up, and I would bite it. And the reward is supposed to be that the disruption, the thing that I feel that's not smooth, has gone away. Except usually what happens is it gets worse and then I keep messing with it, right? So the way that I had to change the habit was I had to recognize the cue. The cue is that I noticed the hangnail. The habit in between was the part I wanted to change. And the reward is I no longer feel the thing. So what I started doing was keeping nail files everywhere. I keep one by my TV. I keep one by my bed. I keep one in my car. I keep one in my wallet. So if I'm somewhere and I'm touching my fingers and I'm noticing there's a little hangnail and I like start, I'm like, and I get my little nail file out and I smooth out that little rough edge. And then I can go back to my, okay, it's better. And it works well because the reward that I'm after, which is no longer feeling the little hangnail, works more effectively than if I was biting it. So that's a habit I was able to change using this cycle. I had to recognize what's the cue and what's the reward. With social media, one of the ways that I changed my nighttime scrolling habits was okay, if the cue is my phone is in my hand and then I open social media, even if I just opened it to answer a text or to check tomorrow's weather, and now suddenly it's there and I am tempted to look at social media. And if I look, I'm sucked in. The simple solution to that is I started uninstalling social media at night. Every night when workday is over, 7 p.m., I just take Instagram off my phone. And then I go to pick up my phone and I would find, oh, I'm reaching for it, but it's not there. And that just not having it available made me able to go, okay, what is it that I really want in this moment? Do I really want connection? Can I text one of my friends? Can I reach out to someone? Do I want comfort? What is it that I'm really looking for that I was going to social media to give me that I could get a different way? And so by taking away the stimulus, it interrupted that habit and I could get the reward a different way. So, when we're thinking about habits, we don't want to just think about the behavior that we are doing or not doing. We want to make sure we're thinking about a cue for the behavior and a reward for the behavior. So, we just talked a little bit about negative habit loops. So, if you can think of some habits that you've been wanting to change and you've been focusing on behavior, I invite you to take a moment to think about what is the cue? What are you doing that triggers that thing, right? Is it like, oh, drinking, right? I have a hard day. I think I need a drink. I stop at this bar on my way home from work and I hit happy hour. And the reward is that I feel like I'm getting relief, right? So you can just map all this out. What is a different way that I could get that reward? And then what would it take to implement that behavior when I have this cue? I have a hard day and I go to yoga class and I get what I really wanted, which is to stress relief, but also to be in community with other people. And I can get that same thing if I do this other behavior. And I wanted a second stop before I got home from work. I wanted to do something else, right? So identifying what the real needs are that that behavior has been giving you, and then seeing if you can experiment with putting in a healthier or more favorable behavior in that habit loop that can give you the same reward. And you might have to experiment for a while until you find one that really sticks, especially if you have ADHD, because we don't take to new routines very well. We don't take to routine very well at all. And the novelty of the thing might keep us going for a little while. But then once the novelty wears off, we may reveal that it's not really ingrained as habit yet. So don't be alarmed if it takes you some experimentation to rework the habit. Now, with new habit creation, new behaviors, those are the ones that you may be looking at toward reaching your goals. So, say your goal is to grow your business and you've never had a habit of consistently promoting your business on social media to drive new customers to your website. This is a fully new habit that you're going to be creating. One thing that you can do is look at existing habits and behaviors you do have that would stack well with the new behavior. So maybe you already have a time of day that you do go on social media, usually socially, to check stuff out. So that cue can be already there in that I'm already opening my phone. The behavior is the new part that I have to post something that drives people to my website. And the reward, what are you going to give yourself? What is the reward going to be? And you want to make that reward something so good, so exciting that you will stick to the behavior. The reward needs to be something that makes you feel good, something enticing, something fun, something that feels like a little bit of a treat. Now, this doesn't mean you need to like go out and spend money. It doesn't mean you need to like have a drink. It doesn't mean that you have to have sugar. There are lots of other types of treats. But stacking that behavior right up against something else that you really enjoy is something that can help. One of mine is for deep work. As somebody who struggles to do deep work, it's hard for me to get into a zone to do deep work. So if I have to write, I have to plan, I have to create, I have to do something that requires a little bit more of my brain power. I'm not somebody who can just easily turn that on. What really helps me is there's a cafe that I go to, and I tend to work at one of the same two cafes. So for me now, the cue of the behavior, which is go into deep work mode, is I arrive at the cafe and I sit at a table and I open my laptop. Once I've done that, right, I've gotten myself there and opened my laptop. Once that cue is in place, it triggers something in my brain that lets me know it's deep work time. Whereas if I'm at home, my Netflix is here, my dishes need to be done. There are other things that I can focus on. There are so many different things that I can do. But when I go to my work cafe, that's the cue that it's time to get deep work done. The reward is I get a beverage that I find delightful and fancy, and it's like a little treat. And so knowing that I have that, the built-in, the cue is that I'm there. There's nothing else for me to do. I'm locked in. I'm there to do my work. The reward is that if I go, I'm going to get a treat. I'm going to get a coffee drink. I've just quit drinking coffee, so now it's tea. That's the loop that helps me cue my brain that it's time to do deep work. For brushing my teeth. And this can be another cue and reward. Lean into your yuck and your yum. So a yuck for me is drinking or eating anything but water if I have morning breath. I think that's yuck. I just don't like it. I don't like how my teeth feels. I don't like how my mouth feels. When I was drinking coffee, like taking my first sip of coffee with my mouth like morning status, I did not like that. That was a yuck. And so the yum is I get my first sip of my morning coffee or my breakfast or whatever on a mouth that feels good to me. So the cue is my mouth feels gross, right? Or I know that I want my morning beverage, my tea and my coffee. That's the cue. I'm up. I want my beverage. The yuck is I don't want to drink it with my mouth gross. And so the behavior is brush your teeth. And the reward is I get my beverage. So when we lean into our yuck and our yum, rather than avoiding yuck, rather than avoiding our own ick at anything about ourselves or our environment, I love leaning into an ick and making ick a motivating factor, not in a way that you're going to beat yourself up, but deciding that something is an ick. For instance, maybe you decide what you want as a habit is you want to start making your bed every morning. You can decide that seeing your unmade bed gives you the ick. That's the cue that you're like, oh, I don't like that. I don't like how it looks. It bothers me. I just get an ick every time I see an unmade bed. Something in me just wants to make it. I'm leaning into the ick factor. I'm amping up the ick factor. And my yum is, oh, I love to see a freshly made bed with all of my pillows the way that I want them and how good it's going to feel to get into my bed at the end of the day. That's my reward. And that feels so good. And I'm really amplifying the story I tell myself about how much I love that reward to help me engage in the behavior. Um, I'm thinking about whether or not I finished out my thought loop about posting your business on promoting your business on Instagram. So the cue is I already have my phone in my hand. The behavior is make a post. The reward is, I mean, really, the reward is hopefully you're getting customers and you're getting traffic and you're seeing things happen. But maybe the reward for yourself is every time you do this, you put a quarter in a jar and at the end of the week you get yourself a treat. Maybe the reward is when I'm done, I get to play a game on my phone for 5 minutes and that's my reward, right? So you want to build in a payoff for yourself for doing this thing that feels good to you. Another thing that can help with creating new habits, especially if you're a neurosquiggly person, is making things time bound and or attached to other things that you are doing with other people. So for a neurosquiggly brain, we live for a deadline. We need a deadline. If you tell me I have all day to do something, it's not getting done until right before I go to bed. That's just how it is. But if you tell me I only have until noon to do it, I'll start it at 11. So, by attaching something that you want to do to something else you know you're going to do, that can help you um, lock in on it a little bit more easily, right? The cue is, oh, I only have an hour before I have to leave the house to do this other thing. And then the habit is, so I will do this behavior in the middle. And that can be something like promoting your business, sending an email, doing something that you really want to do for yourself or for your goals, but wedging it into a time bound container and saying, okay, well, I have to have this done when I go leave for this other thing, especially if the other thing is something that feels like a treat or a reward. It's a class you're going to, it's a lunch with a friend, that if you can say, every Thursday, I meet a friend for lunch. And so on Thursday from 11 to 12, before we meet for lunch, that's when I send my promotional newsletters for my business, because my lunch with my friend is the deadline and the reward. And so we can build in some structure that works for our brain to help us create that habit using another technique, which is habit stacking. I'm attaching sending the email to lunch with the friend because that's already locked in. The lunch with a friend brings me to another strategy that's really helpful for neurosquiggly people, but honestly for everyone, and it's called body doubling, which just means you have another person there present while you're doing the thing. So in the case of exercise, this would be like a personal trainer or a gym buddy. But with body doubling in your home, or even when I work at cafes, I'm body doubling by just being around other people doing work. So they don't need to be doing the same thing I'm doing. They don't need to be really paying attention to me. It's literally just the fact that someone is there that helps me focus and settle down. So when I go work at a cafe, I'm body doubling with everyone there because other people are on their laptops working, and that helps me focus. If I have to do certain tasks like say I have to clean out my closet and pull stuff out for Goodwill. That's the kind of task for me where I would need a body double. And what that might look like is I just need someone to come over and hang out with me and sit there and talk to me while I do this task, because having company is going to help me get it done. And so we may not always be able to have an in-person body double with us as we're building a habit, but what we can access, first of all, there is a website. I will find the name. I'll put the link in the show notes, where you can body double via Zoom with people, and they're just always available. And I think it's a cheap membership, and you sign up and other people who need body doubles are available, and you can hop on with somebody and they're hanging out and you're hanging out. But you can also do it with phone calls. So for a while when I was building up the habit of going for a walk every day, that would be the time that I called my best friend on the phone and we would just chat. And we would, sometimes she'd be like, oh, great, because she also has ADHD. While you're on the phone with me on your walk, I will be cleaning my house. And so we just kept each other company while we were each doing our respective tasks. And that is another strategy that can help in making your habits stick, whatever that is. If you know, I'm much more likely to get this done if there's just another person around, even if they're not making me do it, then lean on that, try it out, see if that helps you. So as you are working towards your goals and your intentions this year, as you are making those steps toward reaching your goals, you want to be looking at, are my daily habits, are my weekly habits, are my monthly habits, are my annual habits, are my habits putting me in a position to succeed at this goal? Or are my current habits keeping me stuck where I am? And if I want to change them, what's the cue? What's the behavior that needs to change? And what is the reward that I can put in place to help me make that happen? My last little tip is start small. Start smaller than you think you need to. Don't try to change a ton of habits at once. Start with one needle moving thing and get it locked in. And once you have that really good and set, then take on another one. If you overwhelm yourself, you're likely to just give them all up and go back to what you were doing before. So I understand it can be infuriating when we want to create big change that we have to be patient and start small, but promise it really does help. So if this was helpful for you, please leave a comment in the space below. And I'm also going to put a link in the show notes for an annual review and planning journal that I created. It's totally free. You can grab it for yourself. And it's going to walk you through reviewing everything that happened in your business in 2023 and creating intentions and plans for what you want to create in 2024. And from there, you can think about what habits will help you create those outcomes. So that's totally free. It's in the show notes below. While you're here, make sure that you subscribe to the channel. So many people who watch these videos don't subscribe, but it really helps me out when you do. Thank you for being here. Okay, love you. Bye.